Is that a bourbon?
Yes, it is.
Hello, and welcome to the Burnt Ham Podcast, where we try to entertain you using our limited knowledge of the world. On this episode, we'll be discussing some movies, such as Tron Legacy and The Father.
Hello, and welcome as well from Thomas. That was
Bit of a hard one to follow up, if I'm honest.
I didn't know what to say. That was really annoying.
But yeah, we got video now.
We have video now. Hello. I don't know what to do. This really put me on the spot now. Right, let's just get straight into it after that horrendous introduction that was completely my fault. I'm sorry.
No, it was both our faults.
Thank you. So, we have just watched Tron, the new one, not the old one.
2010.
Made in 2010. And
Subtitle Legacy.
we are gonna discuss how good and bad it was.
How good and bad it was. Yeah, I agree.
Because it was both good and bad.
It had a mix of good and bad, you know, evil and the opposite of evil, good. Anyway, this movie was an alright watch, you know. It didn't disappoint me. I went in with expectations for it to at least be competent and well made, and I got at least that. So I suppose by that merit, it was a success.
Well, I've seen it a couple of times and I enjoy watching it, so yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed watching this movie. It was fun, which usually isn't my kind of film, if I'm honest. I hate films that make me happy. I prefer ones that make me cry.
Which we'll get onto later.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later indeed. Let's start from the start of the film, shall we?
We shall start at the start of the film, where we're introduced to, I can't remember his name, but something Flynn.
So I think
the
his
main
name,
character Flynn.
something Flynn. Everyone calls him Flynn, so we'll refer to him as Flynn.
Yeah, and he's talking to his son
Sam.
about his son Sam, about how he's just making this cool place called the Grid, which is like some in-game world, and he's basically describing stories about it to him, and he's like, whoa, that's really cool, man.
Yeah, and this kid's like this massive Tron fan, evidently.
Yeah.
Did Flynn create Tron, or was that in the first movie?
I have no idea.
Right.
I haven't seen the first movie.
I haven't seen it,
I'm pretty sure he creates the game.
Okay. So, yeah, he runs this company called Encom, I think.
Yeah, which is like some software company.
Basically, Apple is what Tom said to me whilst watching this.
Yeah, because a little later on, because I don't really want to go through the whole story.
No, so we start off with him. Let's finish this point and say he's talking to his son, and he then mysteriously disappears and cut to present day. And this is where it leads us into.
So then you get introduced to Encom, and Flynn has disappeared. So now it's just run by like the shareholders, I'm pretty sure.
The company is run by shareholders. Public companies get traded on stock markets, which shareholders buy and sell stock from. But yeah, they're in the boardroom for like the executives, and I was expecting them to be the villains because the way they presented the executives was really odd.
Yeah, because they basically introduced them as these people that don't care. They only care about the money. They don't care about they only care about profits and stuff like that, which seems quite villainous.
Yeah, because it was like a classic evil businessman, moustache twirling kind of villain. They were stood around, the CEO was like, last fiscal year we made $200 billion trillion. It's
best year so far.
It's like the episode of the IT Crowd, the Golden Child Returns at the start, where Denham and everyone are in the board meeting, and then the guy's like, "We made billions and billions of dollars. And
we made 200 billion.
Ha ha ha!"
And everyone's just like, ha ha ha. And then, yeah. But anyway, so it was basically like the IT crowd with this boardroom, and they were all just like, "Oh, we don't." And then one guy's like, Flynn doesn't want to. So Flynn doesn't want his software to be sold for profit. He wants
non-for-profit.
He wants it to be free for all to use. And this guy, who must have been friends with Flynn, says this in the boardroom, basically gets laughed at.
I think he was like his dad's friend and like his mentor, because his mum died before his dad went missing, and then his dad dies, and then his grandparents die. Everyone around him dies, and I think he was looked after by this guy.
Yeah.
Which could be his granddad. I have no clue.
Yeah,
it's not really mentioned.
It's not mentioned. But anyway, shenanigans happens. The son, who's older now, breaks in to Encom and releases the software for free.
Well, that's not the real reason he breaks in.
Oh, he breaks in
to show a dog video.
To show his dog woofing to everyone, which is incredibly hilarious.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's fine. But yeah, so you're introduced to this and this company and a bit of Flynn's work. And then skipping on to the story, the son finds his dad's office.
Yeah.
Which is underneath an arcade, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
it's got a secret entrance as well.
Then he discovers the grid.
Whatever the grid is.
Yeah. Which is like
really sure
which is based which is some parallel universe.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of like a game.
I'm guessing the grid is the term they use to refer to like the cyberspace they kind of all these people they meet live in.
Yeah.
But it's the basis for this game, Tron, unsurprisingly, if I'm honest. And he gets thrown in here and sucked into this world, and he's got to go around and save the day and blah blah blah. I don't think we need to run through the whole synopsis.
No. But that's what you're introduced to. That's how it starts off, and that's how you get introduced to the grid, which is where the main film is at, pretty much.
I might take this opportunity to mention that all logic goes out of the window when this happens, which is a good thing, because they've provided a platform, a world where they can allow for the movie to happen and you not be like, why is that happening? You just accept that you're in this video game, and
you're just like, oh, that happened because they're in the grid, and that's okay now.
And if all this happened outside of that, I would have hated this movie with a passion.
And I just want to mention how nice the grid looks. Like visually, you've got all these like lines around all the buildings and like the costumes and the vehicles and stuff like that, and it looks really cool aesthetically.
There is a good art design in this film, I'd say. I quite like the visuals of it. It just harkens back to the original Tron, I guess, but I've seen bits of it, and it seems just like a more modern version. And there's the ocean as well. There's an ocean for some reason. I wanted to mention the ocean. There's an ocean of bits, I guess, bites. I have no clue what.
Yeah, it's an ocean, but it's not water.
Yeah, it's deadly water that makes you disintegrate. Anyway, let's not nitpick. Let's go into some points you wanted to make. Was there anything in particular you wanted to mention?
First off was the bad CG face of Flynn when he's younger.
Wait, are we talking about bearded man, his dad.
Yes.
Oh, so they digitally de-aged his face.
Yes.
Oh,
So they
okay.
de-aged his face. So when you get the opening scene of him talking to his son,
Yeah.
that's him when he was younger. And then when he's in the game, and you've got this identical copy of him called Clue, which is in the game, they've both got the same face.
I see.
Because that's Flynn from when he was younger.
Oh.
And Clue doesn't age because he's a program.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
If I just drop some pennies for you.
No, I was just confused as to why Clue looked exactly like Flynn, and now I've got my answer.
Yeah, because they're
one narcissist, honestly.
Yeah, that is pretty weird that he creates a copy of himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, the CG in it's just not that good. It just looks like the facial expressions and kind of the movement of the head is just not quite realistic enough.
Yeah, I noticed
It just looks a bit odd.
In comparison to his head, the way his body moved on the bed when he was sat there talking to them, it was just like really twitchy and kind of chickeny. You know how birds walk with like their body moving and their head stays in the same place, then it jolts forward. It was like the head,
like that.
Yeah, the head was fixed in one place and the rest of his body were just fidgeting around. But who knows? They used lighting so that you're less distracted by his face. If I guess
in the opening
CG'd.
scene you are.
Yeah,
but when you see the grid and get introduced to Clue, then they just show him as a normal character and don't try to hide his face, and that's when you can really tell how bad his face looks.
He just looks like he's got a golden spotlight on him 24/7.
Yeah, but I don't know why they couldn't have just used a different actor. Like, if it looked, because it does look bad, why couldn't they have just chosen a different actor?
I thought they did at first, but
they haven't. They just, I'm not sure if it is whoever plays Flynn being older does play them when they're younger. If he like plays both characters and then they just CG over his face. I'm not sure how they did it.
I don't know.
I know he's voice acting. Right. I don't know if it's like who's acting.
I think it will be someone else. I doubt he cared enough to do 2 roles for this movie, to be perfectly honest.
Fair enough. But anyway, that's the first point about the film.
Well, I'll jump straight into the soundtrack, shall I?
Oh yeah.
We get appearances from both Daft and Punk.
Yep.
And they're playing for this club with this guy that I suggested should have been played by David Bowie because he's this very flamboyant and I don't know.
I can't remember what the character's actually called. I gotta be honest.
Zeus. His name is Zeus for some reason. I looked it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it is actually Zeus, but I know he had a different name.
I looked it up and it was spelled Zuse, which I thought was just bloody stupid, if I'm honest. I don't know why they did that. Why not just have it as Zeus, like the Greek guy?
But anyway, you're in this club, and then obviously the backing track's already playing and stuff like that. And you have this really cool scene where a fight happens in this club. So then Daft Punk look at each other. And they just nod at each other and play the song called Dresd, which is one of my favourite songs from the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And then there's a really cool fight scene in the club, and it's just really awesome.
I would say, however, if the music wasn't playing, I wouldn't have been impressed whatsoever by the fight scene.
The actual combat wasn't that interesting.
The choreography isn't great in this movie. Like, it's fine. It's fine for a Disney film, I guess, but it's not like something like Bloodsport where you're getting actual proper MMA fighters going head to head and really ripping into each other without hitting each other, obviously. It's a movie, it's not real. Same in this case, but
it's just people using their discs to try and murder other people.
Yeah, their data, I guess, is stored in a disc, and you can use said disc as a frisbee to throw it at people, and then it makes them shatter.
Yeah, which is weird, but pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool visually. And yeah, so Daft Punk did an excellent job, I think, of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And in moments when you're meant to be like in awe of this cool grid place, the soundtrack really adds to the effect, I reckon.
Yeah, I'd say that it's most effective when they're using like their synth kind of stuff, as opposed to there are some string arrangements for more emotional scenes and more human scenes, I guess, but they're just kind of generic, if I'm perfectly honest, and not as strong as when they're using their synths to go.
But that is what they specialize.
Yeah,
is just synth.
Well, they're saying that they can write some nice, more contemporary pieces. For example, the start of Inside, which we discussed on our
Inside
episode from Random Access Memories.
I don't think it's called Inside.
Is it not called Inside?
No. Beyond
Conflict. That's what I was thinking of.
Conflict isn't a song.
I swear it's one.
You've got
There's Contact. I know there's Contact.
You've got Beyond, Within. Those are kind of one of those ones.
You
just have to look at
reverting back to a previous episode.
I must be right.
I just want to know the name of the song so I can make my
that's fair enough.
Comparison valid.
Is the one that I said that sounds like Ski Sunday intro?
No, I'm not talking about Beyond. I'm talking about Within.
Within. There you go.
Which has got a little piano thing at the start. It's quite nice. But yeah, in this movie, their orchestral / string arrangements, whatever, are just not as strong. Although saying that, Ski Sunday is not a very strong song. Let's see. Let's see what I've written down, shall we? I've got a quote, which made me ask Tom if I heard something correctly. Jeff Bridges, who plays Flynn, says, "Radical, man." And it stopped me in my tracks.
What was the context to that? Can you remember? Because I can't really remember.
I believe
he says it.
He says it when... it's when Sam jumps out of the window, isn't it? And flies down to the flight deck.
Oh, yeah, when he's saving the ISO. I wrote her name down. Cora, that's it. Yeah, when he's saving her. Yeah, and he's just like, "Radical, man." And it just doesn't make sense for his character to say that.
Like, I get he's from the 80s, so...
And he's a little bit... he's quite a cool dad, I reckon.
Yeah. I don't know why I said he's from the 80s. No one's from the 80s. He lived and thrived throughout the 80s, is what I should have said. But anyway, this guy from the 80s, I guess he would say that.
Yeah.
He's got a beard, and he did play the dude in The Big Lebowski, so it's kind of fitting. I really actually don't have very many useful notes, if I'm perfectly honest.
Neither do I.
I don't know what I was doing during this film.
Maybe we can talk about the acting in the film, because I think it was lacking.
Oh, the acting sucked. The acting did suck.
Which doesn't help. I found it really difficult to actually care about any of the characters.
It's so hard to connect with them.
You don't connect with them. They're just characters.
I'd say the worst performance has either got to be Sam or Cora. I thought Cora was really bad.
Yeah, I don't think Cora was that good either.
I'll say Sam is worse because we're meant to sympathise with Sam and be in his position.
The main character, and you're meant to be like... He's the hero in the story, so...
Our protagonist has one emotion throughout the film, and it's I'm in a film. he's sat there just in awe of what's going on.
Yeah.
And I can't blame him, to be honest. If I was there, I'd be a bit worried, but come on. He can do a better job
He's
than
just a bit starstruck, maybe.
Yeah, he's a bit like Keanu Reeves, just a bit cardboard, if I'm honest.
But yeah, there isn't much emotion in the whole film.
No.
I think the only thing that makes you feel any emotion is the soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's kind of what... But the characters don't help at all.
I think the soundtrack was what made me most excited in this film, if I'm honest. I was just like, well, I've got to listen to it for the soundtrack at least. Even if it's bad, I don't care.
I think the thing for me which made the film interesting was a combination of the soundtrack and the visuals of the grid. I think those, like with the various bike like combat things, you've got like the flying planes or whatever.
Yeah.
Like just seeing the stuff flying about, it just looked really cool. Plus you've got the soundtrack which just sounded really cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made the film interesting for me.
Yeah, definitely. Although saying that, it's a lot more effective when you have both divisive soundtrack and a good director and good writing and good acting, obviously, because if you look at something like The Lord of the Rings, when they like traverse over the mountains, it's a lot less big and high stakes in the context of the scene.
Yes.
So you've got these planes flying in Tron and they're being chased to the portal that leads them back to Earth or whatever, and that's a lot more expensive in terms of the film. There's a lot more loss if something goes wrong there than the characters in The Lord of the Rings traversing this mountain, because they'll probably be fine. They're just walking on the top of a hill.
Yeah.
But the use of the soundtrack in The Lord of the Rings is just so strong that it makes you feel like you're going on this incredible adventure with them.
Yeah. But with Tron, it kind of, you're just kind of observing.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're with them in this grid place.
Yeah.
You're kind of just watching it happen in front of you.
Also, it's incredibly difficult to be effective with like fake cinematography, I guess, because in a film where most of it's digitally made, you can't like move the camera around. Obviously, you have to program these whole sets and stuff, and they just didn't do it very well. And it's not like Disney can't do it very well, because there's some really impressive stuff in Disney's other stuff. Like if you look at their kind of Renaissance period of stuff like Hercules and Mulan. Mulan is a very good example of inventive camera movements and stuff, like the montage, the training montage scene in Mulan, and when there's the avalanche in Mulan, are two good examples of creative use of animation and this virtual world. But they failed to deliver on that sense in Tron, in my opinion.
I think you've pretty much summed it up.
Yeah. It's got ideas and it just doesn't execute them to the best they can. I just want to mention one more thing about Tron before we move on to whatever.
Yeah, that's fine.
There's this exposition dump of a scene where they're sat around having dinner, and oh my god, I was so bored.
Yeah.
I was that. It was just that one scene that really got my goat, because the script was awful. The directing was like, you're having a talk around a table, now talk like people do. And then
be a human now.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what the direction was.
Mixed with the actors who just obviously didn't know what they were doing because, well, I presume poor directing. But this scene was clearly inserted just to explain the story, and it was necessary, unfortunately.
The problem with it is that if you don't pay close attention to that scene, I literally told George, like, pay attention to this bit because it's provides so much context to what's going on in the story that you can't miss it. But unfortunately, it's really boring, and you don't really like. It was only maybe the second time that I saw it, I understood the story because, like, the first time you watch it, I probably wasn't paying enough attention and didn't understand the story. So I think you have to maybe watch it a few times just to understand what's actually going on, because the scenes that they are describing what's going on, you're not paying much attention because it's just not interesting. The only interesting bits are these crazy fight scenes. Yeah. But that's obviously not as relevant to the story.
And so I think I'm being quite generous with this film. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt and accepting the kind of audience it was for. And although this is for, like...
It is for children.
Young teens / children.
Like 12, I think it is.
Yeah. But a 12-year-old could watch Star Wars, I suppose. Because Star Wars, like, I loved it when I was a kid. So I don't know who didn't love it as a child. So... yeah, maybe I'm being too generous with it. I'm going to give it a straight down the middle 5 out of 10.
I'm going to give it like a 6.
Fair enough.
But I'm not sure if that's nostalgia, because I did watch this when I was quite young.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until when I watched it this time, I did see a lot of bad things about it that when I was younger I wouldn't have noticed. I think that's why it's probably gone down for me, because I was thinking it was a really great movie, but when I saw it just now, I was like, maybe it's not as good. But I still enjoyed it, but especially it being like 2 hours, I'm pretty sure it does drag me at the end.
Yeah. It could have been 90 minutes easily. Yeah. If I'd paid money to see this, I'd be a bit annoyed, but I didn't, so it's fine. I just spent a bit of my time watching it. And I think the only reason I haven't given it a negative review in the sense that it's below 5 out of 10 is quite simply because I liked the soundtrack. I liked some of the music in it.
And one thing I did want to quickly mention was that I thought that the bad guy Clue was actually quite a good character as the villain, because he wasn't technically a villain. He was just doing what he was told. He keeps saying, "You programmed me to create the perfect system." So it's actually Flynn's fault for creating him like he is, because he basically is a Nazi and wants to get rid of like imperfect people like the ISOs who are just magically created, and he doesn't think are good enough. So he wants to kill them. He wants to kill them all. And but I think that is quite a cool villain. It's not like he's not completely evil. You can kind of see his point of view.
If he was like a human consciousness, like if it was his wife, that I thought this was what was going to happen. He went into this world because he could live with his wife there. Flynn could live with his wife there, and maybe Flynn's wife would be the evil ruler. But no, maybe if there was a bit more of a human element to it, I could have sympathised more. But I understand where you're coming from, and I agree. It's not.
But the problem is the acting just isn't there, and the writing isn't there to really push that.
Yeah, they didn't.
But that's a good element that it has, that they just could have went further with it and just improved. That would have improved the film.
This movie isn't inherently a bad idea. None of it is a bad idea. It's just a poorly executed idea, I'd say. It just has
it has potential in my opinion.
It has potential, but just did not fulfill it.
Yeah, it just is lacking in quite a few areas that does let it down and ruins the viewing experience.
Yeah. So, with that said, I guess that means we should go back and watch the original film and see what was intended, because this was pretty much a soft reboot as far as I know.
I haven't heard that much about the first film, so I'm not sure if it's meant to be good or bad.
Oh, I don't know. It was made ages ago, so it's probably crap.
Yeah, but maybe we should go back and see the original and really see. Maybe it might provide a bit more context to
maybe it will help
to Legacy. I'm not sure,
because Tron appears. The movie Tron appears in Tron Legacy.
Yeah, and I've watched it a few times, and it doesn't. It never really explains who Tron is and why he's there and what his purpose is.
Look,
he's just good at fighting. I don't know if that means that maybe in the game Tron, that's the person you play against, like the animated, like you when you play a video game, there's someone who you're usually fighting against, like the game boss. Could he be like that? I don't know.
No, he's just Tron.
He's just Tron, yeah.
Yep.
He's just named after the film. The film's named after him.
The movie says he's Tron, so Tron he is.
And then there's Renslow, but was Renslow Tron, or were they separate characters? I couldn't actually tell. You know the guy that was controlled by the balls?
Oh,
Renslow. Was he Tron? Because they looked similar, and I couldn't tell if they were meant to be the same person or not. I have a feeling that they were the same person, and I feel like that's probably a big point, but I'm not massively sure. I'm gonna have to go ahead and move my number down, because the discussion has left me with more questions. 4.5, and I think I'm being generous. Rest in peace, Tron.
Yeah. Speaking of rest in peace, Tron Legacy. Is that enough about Tron?
I think it's enough about Tron. Yeah.
I don't think we need to talk about Tron much more, if I'm honest.
So next we can discuss supermarkets.
Okay,
that's a subject that I can remember that we were going to talk about. Cool. So I think I mentioned in our first episode that I work at Morrison's, but it's not really relevant to this. But I just wanted to mention how bad supermarkets are. Well, not bad, but just how much they design the store to make the person buy stuff, basically.
Right, so it's hyper-capitalism at its finest.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, without saying it.
God.
It's just... So I'll just give you guys an example just to kick it off, really. So
lay it down.
So in a big supermarket, you've got the fresh fruit and vegetables right at the front of the store. So as you enter, that's like the first few aisles.
Yeah.
And that is designed so that you think that the store is healthier, because that's the first thing you see. That's kind of your first thoughts about the supermarket. So you go, look, it's healthy to go into this shop because look at all this fresh fruit. And then once you've put it into your trolley, then you go around the rest of the store and you think, I've already bought some carrots and broccoli. Look how healthy I'm being. So then you're more likely to buy unhealthy stuff later on in the shops.
Yeah.
So I was just going to ask you, do you think that's acceptable? Do you think that should be allowed? Or do you think the supermarket should be stopped right now?
Well, let's look at this in this way. If there was an alternative to supermarkets where it was just an objective supermarket, it was a non-for-profit, it didn't have its own self-interests put first, it sold food that was accessible for everyone. It wasn't overpriced, blah, blah, blah. If the option for that was there, no, it wouldn't be a problem. But since we don't have that, yeah, definitely. They're literally programming us to buy Kit Kats.
Yeah, they're just forcing everyone to just buy. I don't know. They're just using really clever psychology to make people buy more stuff or be more unhealthy, etc. Things like that.
Playing on
which I just think's just not an morally acceptable thing to do.
No, I think it's immoral to play on the human mind in a sense that you're going to make them hand over what is essentially time taken out of their life, because that's what getting paid is. You trade your time for life. That's the way I look at it. Just the most reductionist view. But yeah, these supermarkets, which don't need to make as much money as they do, which are making the 1% richer, you know?
Yeah.
I don't like to say this too much, but I do believe that capitalism is just completely corrupt. I don't like to go into the debate, but
there is a serious problem, I reckon, and like supermarkets are just one example of stuff that is so wrong with it, basically. But yeah, and like another thing is they'll constantly move stuff around in the supermarket because I work there. I'm familiar with how often they move stuff, and it's really annoying for me because I'm there trying to get someone's order, but oh wait, the cheese is now over there, or something else is moved over there, and it's really confusing for me, and then I've got to then learn where everything is again, which is really inconvenient. But then also you've got the regular customers come in and they go, oh look, they've moved that over there, Dorothy. Oh, that's really annoying. Why is it over there? Oh, well, I can never bloody find anything in this blasted shop. And obviously I've then got to help the customers out, which is my job, but it is a little bit annoying. But it's just frustrating that they don't have to do that, and the only reason they do that is so that you spend more time in the shop looking for the shit that you want, so that you might buy some more things. Like, it's just really annoying.
But let's be real, that's not the only reason they move things in the shop. I believe that some employers do make it purposefully harder for their employees so that they're more attentive and have to put more effort into it, so they perform better or whatever, when it is shown that if you treat your staff well, then your business tends to improve. I read this case study of this all-female business that promoted or the opposite of promoted toxic masculinity. You know, there wasn't
demoted.
Yeah, there we go. That kind of eliminated that, and everyone in the company was performing better. Their sales or whatever performed better, and people generally enjoyed them working more. So you can make more money whilst making your employees happy. I just don't know why supermarkets, for example, do this. Amazon does the same. They had this whole scandal where they put cameras in the cabs of their delivery drivers' vehicles. Oh, and yeah, it's just insane.
Yeah, without going too much into depth about my experiences at Morrison's, because obviously I don't really want to go too much into it, but they're not very good to their staff. Long story short, basically.
No,
and
it's unsurprising.
It's difficult to be a part of it. When you can see blatantly what they're doing from someone who's literally been there maybe like 6 months now. So, and I can see so many problems, like the understaffing, etc., that they're not doing, that could solve a lot of problems that the people that are actually in on the day then have because of this.
Yeah.
which has a big knock-on effect, and it's just it just makes you wonder why they do it, but it is literally just to save as much money.
Yeah.
They put the least amount of staff possible on and see if our store can cope with this many staff, and then if it can't, then they'll put more staff on. But if we can, then they're just like, oh, we'll just work harder, it's fine.
Yeah, I've had experiences like that sort of thing. I worked as a bin collector for a bit, believe it or not. After I finished the term of uni I did this academic year, I wasn't enjoying it, so I dropped out and I've reapplied and I'm going back this year. But I went and worked for a company called Suez, which I'm sure anyone who has bins in this country is familiar with. They thrive off of agencies, and if you're unfamiliar with what agencies are, they're a recruitment company that is designed to spread as far and wide these jobs so that they get anyone,
reach literally everyone,
and then anyone can come in and do the job, and they're treated like crap. If you can't stick with it, you leave. They don't even fire you. You literally leave. This is how ridiculous it is. And
they just don't care who's doing the job. They just want someone to do the job.
There's no support for the employee because you're working through an agency. So the agency, you're the agency's responsibility. But as long as you're doing the job, you fulfilled the agency's part, and then they kind of remove themselves, and then you can't talk to the company because you're in the agency. And it's this horrible cycle of poor, depressed people being cycled in and out of work and not being able to consistently work because the conditions are so horrible.
Yeah, especially when those are the type of people that need second chances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm just assuming here people have gone to prison and stuff like that, and that's probably one of the only jobs they can get.
Yeah,
and then they're just treated like absolute shite, which just is horrible.
Whilst these companies are really accessible, and you could probably have killed 3 people and still work as a binman, I don't know, that might have been an exaggeration, but who knows. You're treated like doggy doo-doo and basically thrown in the trash.
Yeah, and like it's not very motivating to someone who's just come out of prison.
Yeah.
If they go, or should I turn back to a life of crime, or should I carry on collecting bins whilst getting treated like shite?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it damaged my mental health because I hated doing it, but I liked the money, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and that's the case with anything. It's like, oh, the pay's all right though.
Yeah, you get just enough that it's worth doing it for the right amount of people. And the people that will consistently stay and do it because they're happy with the pay, that's what they want. They won't ever raise their pay. They'll be stuck working at that rate for the rest of their life, and there's no opportunity for progression unless you're probably just like your average civilian, like born in this country, haven't committed crimes, haven't had problems in the past, your mental health is good, you have support and stuff, and so that's who the progressions are really for. But the workers, the actual workers,
the grafters,
the grafters are the ones that get treated like poo. They're the ones that do the most work, and it is just an unhappy environment. And
I can imagine.
I'm never doing work like that again unless I need to, if I'm honest.
No, it's one of those things where until you've had that experience, it's difficult to empathize with someone. And that's why a lot of people do say like, oh, just do a retail job and then you won't be harsh or be the stereotypical Karen
Yeah.
and just argue and want to speak to the manager,
Yeah.
because you'll be able to empathise with these minimum wage workers who are just trying to do the best that they can with a limited amount of knowledge, usually. They're just trying to do the best that they can. They probably don't enjoy doing the job, and it's just a job for them. They don't care about it as much as they probably should, I guess. But it's just one of those things.
It keeps you in touch with reality more, and I'd say 99% of minimum wage workers don't enjoy their job, because if you're earning minimum wage for it, then it's going to be an uninteresting job. It's just going to be menial.
It's just going to be not basic. And you're not going to have much pride in your work if you're just stacking shelves.
Because that means you've actually seen your work give gratification, and those kind of jobs tend to be like engineers' jobs, artists, whatever, and when they do well, they earn a lot more. Anyway, I think on that very low note,
that went quite dark and gloomy.
Yeah, well, I think it was good to talk about.
It was, get some stuff off our chest.
Even if it went from a supermarket conversation to workers' rights in the UK.
Yeah, but I think that's a worldwide issue.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just big companies taking advantage of people. Did you have another subject before the father to talk about?
My subject is taking a break because I need the toilet.
Okay.
See you in a sec. And we're back.
We are back.
I've been to the toilet and we're ready to rock and roll with a subject about
another film.
Another film, yeah. It's
but
turning into a film cast.
Is a much better film.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers.
This is almost a 10 out of 10 from me.
Yeah, it's one of the best films I've seen in a very long time, I have to admit.
Yes.
So, we recently watched The Father a few days ago.
Went to the
cinema.
Yeah.
And, that's the end.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was really good.
What should we talk about next?
May you get notes on your phone.
Oh, yeah, let's dive into The Father. So this was a movie about an old man suffering from some sort of dementia, and it shows his daughter,
trying to cope and deal with dad's
and care and whatnot.
Degrading
mental health. Yeah. And it's very moving and made me sad quite a lot of the time, if I'm honest.
It did make me very sad and quite emotional near the end.
There were 2 points that it made me proper tear up, if I'm honest. And we'll mention them as we go through it.
So I've got a couple of sections that I've already split up.
Yeah.
So the first one that we've got to talk about is the acting, because it was phenomenal.
Definitely an Oscar award-winning performance.
Anthony Hopkins played Anthony.
Yes,
because
aptly
it was
named.
Basically written for him.
Yeah,
the film was.
The director and writer, I guess, Florian Zeller, who wrote the original La Paire, which was an American stage show. American? French. Damn. I couldn't have been more wrong then. A French stage show, which was released in 2010 or something, and it was based on this, and it works really well in this movie. Yeah. So Anthony Hopkins
is called Anthony in the film because it's just for him, like Terry Crews in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's also called Terry in the show.
I don't think
basically
that's a fair
the
comparison.
same thing. But anyway, I think he did an incredible job, and
words can't describe it.
And he has multiple changes in his
Mood.
demeanor because of his dementia. So like one of the examples is he's very charming to this carer that he's being introduced to,
telling this tall tale of being a tap dancer.
Yeah, and just showing off like, do you want a drink? Do you want a scotch and stuff like that? Having a laugh and a joke,
being a nice old man. You know?
And then all of a sudden he just snaps and just starts like getting angry and like, I'm very clever. I don't need a carer and stuff like that. He doesn't need help.
And he talks about his daughter to this carer who is in the room at the time, and he says, I'm just waiting her to fuck off, and obviously she gets upset about this, and there's just no remorse from him. It's like he doesn't even know she's in the room.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't even know who she is.
Yeah, and it's insane. The tonal shifts are so good. How he can just cascade into this paranoid old man from such a nice guy,
from such a charming guy like 5 minutes earlier, and throughout the whole film he's giving off like a slightly confused vibe. I'd say is the best way to describe it, like throughout the whole film, because he's got dementia and is confused, and somehow throughout all the extra, the charming, the crying, every emotion, you've got a subtle hint of confusion.
A through line of him suffering from dementia, which is incredible.
And the way he does it is impressive.
It's insane. It really does go to show he is one of the best actors of our time.
Yeah.
Although he is a bit before our time. He's old as fuck.
Yeah, he is pretty old now. And his daughter, Anne, played by Olivia Colman, also did a great job.
Yeah, she's brilliant as well.
She has some really emotional scenes, which I think she plays well.
She's very good at showing her emotion.
Yeah, she's an expert crier. That's how I describe her.
Yeah. Maybe she's got practice. I guess you have to if you're gonna play these characters. And her on-screen opposite Anthony Hopkins, it feels like she is his daughter, scared about losing her father, scared that he doesn't remember her, scared, worried, upset, mix of emotions really. It juggles so many emotions at once, and it really makes you feel them all, and that's what's so brilliant about this film.
Yeah, so moving on to the next point. So the story is told from Anthony's point of view. So it's written very confusingly. So a few examples is like the characters change for him. Like his daughter is shown as Olivia Colman, and then it changes to a different actor. I'm not sure.
It's the nurse. The nurse at the start and the end of the film. Spoilers.
Okay. I didn't realise that it was the nurse at the end.
Yeah, right at the start and right at the end.
I didn't get that. I wish I got that. But anyway, and then so the actors change because if he doesn't take his meds, basically he gets more confused than normal, and literally he didn't recognize who his daughter was, which is why you were shown a different actor for his daughter. So it just it gives you the point of view of if you don't recognize your daughter, like how that must look for you.
And the scenes are ordered in a non-linear fashion. So scene 1 isn't right before scene 2. There's a couple of nights I think it would go through, but I don't know how spaced out they are. But the most important one I'd say is the night where they have dinner, they being Anne, played by Olivia Colman, and her husband and Anthony, and this is just a very difficult scene to watch throughout the film,
because obviously Olivia, the no, Anne is obviously trying to be caring because it's his dad. It's her dad, sorry. Oh, goodness. And she's just trying to do her best, and she understands that he's not well, and she's just got to try and do the best. But her husband does not have the same empathy and shows his frustration a lot, and even towards Anthony is literally like, he was like, oh, I want your honest opinion. I want to ask you a question, but you have to answer honestly. And it's like, why don't you just fuck off or something like that? I can't remember specifically what the question is, but
I saw it as that shows that he had experienced abuse from Olivia Colman's husband. It doesn't show a lot, but it shows enough, and Anthony gives a reaction strong enough to suggest to me that this has been recurring and he's been tormented by this guy who might have anger problems or whatever and can't deal with Anthony's dementia properly. But it's not explicitly said in the movie, but I think it's nicer.
I think it's an interpretation that you can take from it, which when you described it to me made a lot of sense. So so you're told that Anne has split up with her husband, but you're not told why. And then later on, you're definitely introduced to her boyfriend, who you think they're moving to Paris together, even though there's sometimes Anne says that they're not going to Paris, and sometimes she says that she is, because Anthony doesn't really know because he's got dementia. But anyway.
Or he might have got the place confused, or he might have thought that they were going on holiday or something, you know.
Yeah.
It could be any number of things that they said. It's just left as a vague, we're going to Paris, we're moving to Paris. So
basically, you need to be able to be by yourself and not need me to take care of you, etc. But anyway, the husband that does hit, so a guy hits Anthony, and at first you're shown it's the boyfriend, but then it appears as a different guy. Am I correct in saying that?
I think so the way I saw it was sometimes he gets confused about who he's seeing because dementia. So he gets flashbacks about the abuse from the male doctor who is revealed at the end, and about the husband. And when he's with the husband, he obviously just doesn't know which boyfriend it is, or is kind of very open to interpretation. It can you make it as personal as you want to.
Yeah,
you want to make it as severe as you see it.
And I can't remember where we were now. We were talking about Anthony getting hit by someone.
Yeah, we were talking about the non-linear storyline.
And his reaction to that.
Yeah, which was about the scenes not being in order. What was the next point? I thought this was a very good movie and everyone should watch it because it made me really sad. Ooh,
yeah, so just as a quick summary of that, I think it does a really good job doing it from the perspective of a person with dementia, because you really empathize with someone in that position in the real world. And I think if you've known anyone with dementia, that would really affect you, and then you can really understand what they're going through. And it is quite difficult because it looks so hard going through that type of thing. I think not knowing what's going on, being confused all the time must be awful.
The thing that hits hardest for me is knowing that this can happen to anyone, regardless of whether they smoke, whether they drink, whether they don't smoke, whether they don't drink, whatever.
And there's no cure.
It is simply the end of knowing this person, to be perfectly honest. And I just wanted to mention that the title, The Father, I don't see this as unintentional, is the father, because it could be anyone's father, just the father. It is the only father you have. This could happen to. Think about it and be sad about it.
So the only other point I've got written down was music, but I didn't actually write anything underneath that, so I don't know if you have any opinion.
Well, I listened to the soundtrack this morning. It's only about 25 minutes long, and it's this very minimalist piano and orchestra arrangement that just complements the feelings of distance and unease and uncertainty, and it just quite nicely complements the movie, if I'm honest.
Because I haven't listened to the soundtrack after the film, so I don't really remember the soundtrack, but because, to be honest, the acting just stole the show.
Yeah.
And you're not paying that much attention to the music. But
yeah. And speaking of the acting stealing the show, everything in the movie complements it, including the set design, which I wanted to mention. It's a very nice flat.
Really nice flat.
Proper nice
as
flat.
As soon as I saw the flat, I was like, I don't blame you for not wanting to leave your flat either.
Yeah, he was literally like, I'm not leaving my flat. And then he did. But yeah.
He did actually leave his flat.
Not by choice.
Not by choice.
He went to a care home.
To live out the rest of his life.
Don't say I didn't warn you about spoilers. I did say spoilers earlier. So
yeah, we're always going to spoil films if we're going to.
Yeah, from now on, we'll just put that as a blanket. Everything will be spoiled. So if you care about it,
yeah, don't listen to us.
Or go watch it and come back and listen.
Yes, please keep listening.
So you can have your opinion formed for you. I know I used to be like that when I used to listen to reviews.
You're like, oh, I agree with everything.
Yeah.
That is now my opinion.
From 16 to 18, I learned to form my own opinion.
Yeah.
It took me about 18 years of my life.
It is quite difficult to come up with your own opinions.
Yeah. It's just being confident in what you're saying, and I do feel more confident after watching more films and stuff. But let's just do a little summary of The Father.
Yes.
And
rating out of 10?
Ooh, 9.5. I want to give it more than 9, but I don't want to give it 10 because I don't know if any film can get a 10 other than something like The Incredibles, just because I liked it as a kid. You know. What about yourself?
I was gonna give it a 9 as well. Not quite 9.5. But it definitely was a 9.
Yeah.
I just want to mention this. I did have a little cry at the end.
Oh yeah,
at the
same.
end, and I don't get emotional at films really. I never really get overwhelmed with emotion like that. And just for a film to be able to do that was just pretty amazing.
Yeah, it takes a lot for a piece of media to be able to make you physically tear up.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, a lot of things make me sad, a lot of things make me happy, you know, whatever, but it
can make you feel emotion, but not strong
to
enough
the extent
to,
of,
do that, because nothing was happening to me. I was just sitting in a cinema, but somehow I just started crying.
These photons were bouncing off the screen and going into your eyeball, and it made you cry. Wow, what a pussy.
Wow, that's so rude.
Overall, go see The Father. I'd say it's a film you should watch.
I think any mature person should watch it. I think obviously if they're not old enough to understand what's going on, I don't think that's a good idea, because they'll just get bored of it. Probably. But
or if you're someone who has a family member who's suffering from dementia, if you want something that might comfort you to know that it's not just you this is happening to, and see kind of the similarities in someone else, this would probably be a good watch.
But it would be really difficult to watch. I gotta admit, like if I was experiencing it and watched that film, I would really struggle to keep watching.
Yeah, if your granddad died yesterday, don't go watch this. Give it some time.
Yeah, but
that'll do it for The Father.
Yeah,
that's
just all I can say. It's just brilliant,
incredible. Yes. There's one more topic I want to bring up. Wow, we've actually done really well
We have
this
done
episode, Tom.
incredibly.
This is our 4th topic. We've only done 3 topics so far.
We are so good.
Yes. Okay, so this one is a serious one. So this is for real. No laughing, joking.
Now, guys.
If you hate being serious, keep listening because this is important. I want to give a quick chat about the transgender issue. Not the fact that there are people who are transgender, the fact that there is such a
big issues surrounding
yeah
the people that are transgender.
What's
People-
prejudice?
Yeah,
prejudice,
prejudiced.
Transphobia, any word you want to use for it. I say
Hatred.
yeah,
Pretty much.
and this is especially relevant to our area in which we live. We live in an area where there's lower social mobility and people generally aren't as well educated on more modern social issues.
Yeah.
Not that they haven't been around for the past hundreds and hundreds of years. They just didn't get talked about until now.
It was very taboo. And I
Yeah.
think now people feel that they can be more open.
Yes.
Therefore, it's becoming a talked about subject, which
But-
it wasn't before. But unfortunately, people don't know enough about it to
Yeah.
have a proper opinion.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention that I'm not an expert on the human mind and how the transgender brain works. I'm not going to claim to know anything. I've just got experience hearing negative responses about this sort of thing. Let's kick it off with a little anecdote from work. Ooh,
Okay.
back to work. So someone was trying to guess the singer on our CD player. For anyone that wants to know, it was Rod Stewart, who is actually a pretty good singer. And they asked, was it a man or a woman? And said, the other person said, oh, it's got to be one of the two. And then someone from another table was like, well said. And it really just got my goat. I was like, right, I really wanted to butt in, but when you're at work, you just can't be rude to customers.
Yeah.
You cannot question anything.
Yeah, unfortunately, the customer is always right in those scenarios, and you could try and have an argument, but then they've always got the card of, oh, well, I want to speak to your manager now.
Yeah, your manager.
I wanted someone to tell you off for having opinions.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because
Yes.
it literally does not affect the people that moan about it. Like all these old people that aren't going to be having gender reassignment surgery or therapy or whatever it's called, treatment. Why do they care so much? Why do people care so much?
That's one of my biggest gripes, is the fact that it doesn't affect you in any way. I'm a straight white male, and it doesn't affect me in any way whether transgender people are allowed to have gender reassignment surgery or not, because I'm not a transgender person myself.
Yeah.
So why am I being even asked about if that should be okay or not? It's got nothing to do with me. All I can do is try and treat that person as a human being, and if they respect me, I'll respect them back. If they're still a massive penis, I'm obviously not going to like them just because I have to. It's just, if they're a penis, I'll be a penis back to them. But if they're a nice person, I'll be a nice person back to them. I don't think their transgender stuff has got anything to do with that.
Yeah, just respect how they feel comfortable and make them feel comfortable by supporting them in this process, by referring to them using their preferred pronouns. I know it's
think
a
something
big joke,
as
but
simple as that, just, oh, I'm now aware of what they'll tell you, I'm assuming, what pronouns they want to use. If you obviously, if you have only just first met them, you're not going to know that.
No, and
I'm sure
no transgender person's going to be annoyed if they're like,
yeah,
if they use the wrong one, and then you say, use this one please, and you say, okay, I will.
Yeah, if you're going to speak to them for a long period of time, then they'll probably tell you, and then you can just do that, and then that makes them feel more comfortable. And isn't that a good thing? Why would you be against that? Yeah,
and it goes deeper than that, because so once you've said, yes, I will change the pronouns I used to refer to you, I will call you by the name you prefer, some people then refuse, that they get very defensive when they get it wrong and are challenged. So I understand frustration with yourself when you mess up and use the wrong name. That shows you want to change. You want to change to be correct, to make someone happy, And if you're getting very defensive about, it's just, I forget, it's not my fault. No, it is your fault.
It's your fault. But if you say, sorry, I used the wrong name, the wrong pronoun, if you say that and I genuinely didn't mean to do it, then you're not gonna be attacked or anything like that. If you're genuinely didn't mean to do it. But if you're just like, I can't be, there's too much of this nonsense, it's all too confusing and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really not.
Because if you're putting in the effort to change, to be able to make this person feel comfortable, then naturally over time, it doesn't happen instantly obviously, but over the course of a few weeks or whatever, you'll be right there using the right words.
It'll
come
be
to you.
The way that you speak to that person. They'll just be referred to that.
Yeah, and you won't think anything of it. But some people say, that's fine, I'll do that for you, I'll call you they, them, whatever, and then they just get it wrong almost every single time, and it's like, why did you bother saying you were going to change?
They're not showing any genuine care, which I think is the problem.
Yeah, why did you not do this? Because you said you would. If you're going to do something, integrity, do it. And it must be difficult for people receiving that, because if it's someone you're related to, then it must feel like that they just don't care. They don't care about the way you're feeling. They don't care about the confusing feelings you're having, which must be really difficult.
It must be, that's off our chest now. Your chest.
I just wanted to help make people more aware, the thinking behind, the attitudes behind this kind of thing, because I've seen.
Because I think there is a problem at the moment because it's a new thing, and people, and every time there's change, there's always people that don't like change, and they're always gonna bloody moan about it, even when it's pretty obvious that the change is for a good cause.
Yeah,
which it obviously is, which is making people feel more comfortable about being themselves.
Yeah, if we can go from having slavery to not having slavery. Obviously
we managed to sort that out and say that's a bad thing.
I'm not saying that there still aren't racial issues between white and black people, because there obviously are.
Yeah.
But the progress that has been made from two extremes, surely an individual case where you're using different words to refer to someone is inconsequential to the future of your life.
And it doesn't affect you.
No.
That's what I keep, you're not gonna make less money because of this.
No.
You're not gonna suddenly have to do anything extra. It's just doing what you already do, just slightly different.
Yeah. And what you do have to change, and I'll be honest here, I have been asked to change what pronouns I use for someone. I'm not going to mention who, because why would I? But and I've had to challenge myself doing this. You know, I want to, you know, make this person feel comfortable, and even if it feels weird saying it for the first however many times or every time, if it feels weird every time, just do it. You know, break through, because it won't feel weird every time. Is the honest answer. You'll just get used to it.
And if you can just do a little bit to make someone else's life easier, then that's
great.
That's just what you want to do, and it'll make you feel better.
Yeah, both people feel better. So if you're struggling to come to terms with someone else struggling to come to terms with their gender identity, just take a minute and think how ridiculous it is you stressing about using different words, because trust me, it's not difficult.
Yeah.
I think that just about does it though.
I think that leaves us on a good ending point.
Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much for listening, for anyone who has listened this far, and I have a feeling
this
no
is
one
a
listened.
Pretty long episode, and we've waffled on about a couple of films that, unless you've seen it, it's probably going to be pretty boring. And you've seen us, so you can see all our weird facial expressions now, which might be very exciting.
See my swaggy drip.